Howdy folks, and welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another episode. And once again, this episode, as soon as a war starts, things are getting spicy. And as this, I think, was the first time I was watching a battle between AIs, I decided to focus my camera, let's say, on the unfolding Battle of Poland. And I don't know why, but I was really surprised by the resistance that the Polish armed forces made, and especially by the counteroffensive that the Polish made against the German forces in East Prussia, as one cavalry and one infantry divisions even managed to push the Germans out of their territory and even managed to invade East Prussia. I mean, yeah, Poland did put up a brave fight because while those troops were advancing into East Prussia, the whole Polish army was being pushed back from the, let's say, western border. And I mean, Poland would have held out for a much longer time had not been for the Soviet Union quickly intervening in the conflict. And surprisingly, the Polish resistance held out longer than my expectations, because I was like, yeah, Poland will just collapse in a matter of weeks. But actually, the Poles managed to stand their ground until I think it was November 1939. So September, October, November, let's say 2 months and a half of campaign compared to what happened in our real life. So I must say, really brave Polish soldiers fought until the very end. And as things were unfolding in eastern Poland, I put some more divisions into the basic training, because I realized that by researching the command technologies in the land doctrines, you can actually increase the number of divisions that you can assign to your generals. And since now I had I had 13 available divisions for my generals, I said, okay, let's just put some more divisions into basic training. I decided to do so despite the fact that I was, again, really almost scrapping my barrel in terms of manpower. And again, talking back to the AI versus AI campaigns, when the Winter War triggered, I again watched the development of it. And even though, again, the Finns managed to conquer one Soviet province in the very beginning of the war, I think that just by sheer numbers, the Red Army began to push back the thin Finnish forces, and all this continued until exactly the White Peace was triggered. And yeah, I was saying, on the Western Front, I decided to put these divisions, even though this really put my manpower reserve almost at an incredibly low level. And when I noticed, interestingly, that the German AI was attacking one of my garrisons in the Maginot Line, I think the only province with just one division in it, I was like, well, it's time to deploy quickly and immediately, let's say, because there was this 5 seconds of panicking. And when the offensive in the west began, when I saw that the whole freaking German army was attacking the Maginot Line, I was like, oh my god, I have no time to waste, and just fingers crossed that my forts will hold the line for the French. And indeed, they managed to. And in the north, as I saw this window of opportunity, I was like, let's try to advance into the Belgian territory. And yeah, at the beginning I even managed to win one battle, but then, just by sheer numbers, the Germans pushed me back to my defensive line. I said defensive line because behind that line, behind that border, I did manage to complete at least one level 1 line of forts. And I don't know if the AI is triggered to do so, but apparently this was enough to stop the Germans, and I was honestly really surprised. And when Italy entered the war, I made two mistakes. Well, the first mistake was already made back in 1939 because I forgot to place my motorized army in Tunisia, and the second mistake was to call Tunisia into the war. As the Italian army outnumbered me, I would say almost, I would say 6-1, because I didn't have any divisions, and the only divisions that I had were the ones of the British. The Italians quickly advanced into Tunisia, and I almost felt like I was fighting the Battle of Kasserine Pass, but in a kind of reverse order, because the Italians just pushed through the southern Tunisia and even almost managed to rout some of my motorized divisions, because hadn't I not intervened quickly with the others, I don't know what would have happened. And I saw that the British counterattacked the Italians, but this was really a futile move, because not only the Italians survived the attack, but the British lost all of their organization. And by doing so, the Italians pushed the British back, and there was this kind of awkward salient. My troops were now holding a salient within the Italian-occupied Tunisia, while the Italians were occupying the salient in the French Algeria, I guess. That's it, yeah. So I was like, I need to act fast before it's too late, before my troops get cut off by the advancing Italians. And as the Italian AI only had a bunch of divisions along my front line, I was like, let's attack and pierce through the enemy lines here. And the French offensive in Tunisia started relatively well, because the AI was caught again by surprise, and the AI had to redeploy and relocate some of its divisions located in the, let's say, French Algeria, to face the new threat coming from Tunisia. And as always, the plan was to try to encircle and destroy the Italian army in the French Algeria, and this turned out to be too much for my thin veil of troops. Therefore, I decided to bring in the tanks, which was, I think, a big mistake, because the tanks began eating all the supplies available in Tunisia, and without supplies I had no organization. So, oh my goodness, I had to play around with the infrastructures. I began building infrastructures in Tunisia, and I think I even asked the British to get away from there, basically, yeah. And it was, only also, I think, because of my green air support that my troops emerged once again victorious. And because I wanted to cut off the enemy from their supplies, I began this dash along the coast, because the plan was just to be faster than my enemy. And by being faster than my enemy was like just rush through the coastline to cut off the enemy ports, and then swing inward to seal this huge desert pocket, let's say. And as always, once again, if you manage to trap enemy divisions in a pocket, just wait, let's say, 2 or 3 in-game days, and they will just starve out of lack of supplies. Interestingly, I noticed that Spain was called as part of the Allies, and this was unexpected, because I thought that Spain would be staying neutral, but actually this was very interesting, and this gave me the idea that when I will play as the Soviet Union, one of the goals would be to maintain Republican Spain, to hopefully distract as many Axis troops as possible from fighting on the Eastern Front, and let's say diluting the production of the Axis into fighting the hopefully potential partisans that will arise when fighting in Spain. And in North Africa, the combined Anglo-French offensive completely kicked out the Italians from the continent, and within a matter of few months, the last pocket of Italian soldiers was wiped out. And yeah, despite the initial mistakes, I still managed to turn the tide in North Africa, which is good because this allowed me then to move back my troops. And actually, because now Spain was in the Allies, I could just move my troops into French Algeria and I think Morocco, and then from there move them to France via Spain. I was trying to play around with the navy to see if I could get naval superiority for a potential amphibious invasion of Italy, because yeah, I think that was the first time I ever touched my navy in any of my Hearts of Iron 4 campaigns. But yeah, I just quickly gave up because it was sucking too much fuel from me. And yeah, I mean, that's all for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, thank you very much for supporting the channel, and well, stay tuned for a few more episodes of this alternate French campaign. Take care and see you soon.